You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. This episode is very special and very bittersweet. You may remember when I spoke with Jaret Martino and Pat Branch when they made the short called Stronger Than Pretty. Well, they are back because the feature film version, Donna, Stronger Than Pretty, is about to have its worldwide release on February 23rd after a great festival run. I also had the honor to talk to Donna Martino herself, Jaret's mom, whose story the film tells. We recorded this last February on the weekend of its festival premiere, where it basically won all the awards. It was impossible to know at that time that Donna would be diagnosed with cancer very shortly afterward, and she passed away on September 3rd of 2020. As you will hear, Donna was a remarkable woman and mother, and Jaret's tribute to her in the form of this film will inspire you, as it has inspired me. Pat and Jaret co-wrote the script, and Jaret directed it. I started out talking with Jaret and Donna, and Pat joins later on, fresh from an award ceremony where she was collecting all the trophies. I'm so happy for them for the success of this film. I feel like I've been along with them on this journey, and what a beautiful tribute it is to Donna and her story of strength and perseverance, and it is such an enormous loss. You can find us at theother50%.com for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places. Okay, here's my conversation with Jaret Martino, Donna Martino, and Pat Branch. Have a listen. So I'm here today with Jaret and Donna Martino. You may remember we spoke with Jaret 2 years ago. You had just done the short, Stronger Than Pretty. And then what happened?
I'm trying to think of what actually happened after that.
You know, that was a terrible question to ask. I'm going to say this. You have just had your world premiere of the feature film version of this movie, which is now called Donna, Stronger Than Pretty.
Yes.
And I also heard that you won all the awards at the film festival.
We did.
Congratulations.
I just heard the same things.
So what was the name of the film festival where it debuted?
The Cinema at the Edge in Santa Monica.
And it was Best Actor, Best Director, Best Picture?
Yep, all
well
three.
Done.
Took them home.
So I think it turned out just fine.
Yes.
I want to talk about the journey of making this feature film because I was around you at the time, and I know it had a lot of ups and downs and has been really a journey. And also, we get to talk to Donna, who the film is about. So I'm thrilled about that. Donna, say hello so we can hear you.
Hello.
So if people have been listening to the show since the beginning, you'll remember that Jaret wrote this movie about you, his mom.
Right.
And it's really your life story.
Yeah.
And first of all, what an amazing thing for a son to do.
It is.
Like, what do you make of that?
You know, like I said last night in front of, I don't know, hundreds of people, there are really no words that I think have been invented yet to really describe like how I feel. And, you know, I'm just, of course, more than proud. And I've watched this whole journey and the ups and the downs and all of the conversations that we've had and just watching him work tirelessly and just endlessly, you know, behind a computer or on the phone or, you know, doing meetings and just making like so many different connections. And every day, all day long, there was always something he was telling me and adding to this whole journey. And after a while, I couldn't keep up with him, you know, but...
Like, did you have any idea how much goes into even making a movie?
No, well, that was what really, that's why I'm like in awe of him because I knew he was tenacious, but this is, you know, just above and beyond. It takes a surmountable amount of work and patience and dedication and just like I said, you know, hours of just constantly working. I mean, all day, all night. You know,
I wonder where he learned that kind of determination and work ethic.
You got me.
Jaret, why don't you tell us kind of what the film's about if people don't know?
Yeah, the journey of a woman finding her voice. So yeah, I grew up watching my mom. You know, the older I got, I realized just how much went into what she had to do on a daily basis. And when I first moved out here, I was trying to go on an audition in one day and do laundry at the same time, and it was like,
and that was too much.
That was a lot. Yeah, I was having, you know, such a hard time with
having nervous breakdowns.
just a hard time with life and figuring out how to take care of myself as a young man, first time, 3,000 miles away from home. And I think that's when it really, like, I always had an appreciation for what my mom was doing to survive and to make a life for. I felt connected to that, and I would show up even as a kid when my mom was working 2 or 3 jobs and going to school full time to become a teacher. I was the middle child, and I was the child lighting the candles and heating up the dinner for when she was going to be home. Just anything I could do to make her life easier, because I just felt connected to how hard and how much she had to take on. Playing the role of mother and father is never easy for anybody. And when you have so much in your life to still accomplish, and that the goals that she achieved while having 3 kids.
And doing laundry.
And doing the laundry.
I know, and that's why I was like...
I have laundry going right now. Okay. So you were a single mother of 3 after a tumultuous marriage and divorce.
Right.
And, I mean, this is the question I want to ask you. How is it to be so seen by your son after having gone through all that?
Well, that's the incredible part. I think a lot of people probably will never have the connection I think that we have. And I think I have it, I have a wonderful connection with all my 3 kids, but Jaret really took this story that, from another child's perspective, it could have been, they could have just focused on all the negative, where he took it and really made it a beautiful story and really looked at me with, well, he didn't look at me like, why did she stay? And, how could she have done this or that? Or why didn't she leave a long time ago? Or, like all those negative things. He took all of the strength that I guess he saw within all the things that I did during those years, and just focused on that and realized the importance of not getting caught up in the whole vicious cycle and negativity of it all, because that doesn't do anything but keep perpetuating that darkness that, comes along with being in a domestic violence situation. Rather, he decided that, people need to see and hear that there's hope and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that, if you reach out and find the strength within yourself and then, actually, let others know what your situation is, there's, hope. So, yeah, I think he did an unbelievable job with the film and just the empowerment and the message in it.
Yeah, it's such a story of triumph.
Yeah.
And to be able to see that as a son, I think, is incredible. As you were growing up, were you aware of the whole story?
I mean, I have memories of certain situations, and I think it was more always just a feeling. I grew up an empath, so I always felt everything so much more. So I think I just felt the overall feeling of what was happening. And then even after the escape, and I think that's when I felt it even more, because there was that struggle. It then became financial abuse, and there was the whole court battle of that. And a part of the film is my father hiring one of the top attorneys and rolling up to court in a Porsche and everything else, and
claiming
just
bankruptcy.
Of course.
And it's scary for a kid to, and that's really another reason, besides giving my mom a voice she never had, and the family a voice we never had, giving children something in the media that I never had, because if there was a film like this that reviewed the shame and dove into it a little bit, it could have provided an outlet, Now today, luckily, they have art therapy and different programs and spaces for men to speak, that's the only space that men have to speak most of the time still today is AA.
Yeah, back during the time when I was going through this, there really wasn't anywhere to really turn to. I remember going to an office called Vibes. It was this tiny little room, and there was just a table with a woman behind it, and she barely offered me, any kind of support, or, she just took my name and asked me what the situation was, and nothing ever happened, and She didn't give me any kind of advice or tell me where to go and what I can do or anything like that. So, and then, during those times and even till today, getting an order of protection, you think more than once, you think a million times, well, why am I going to go and do that? That's only going to get him even angrier.
Oh, a woman got killed last week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the complexities of the situation, people really don't understand. And then on top of the complexities of that, you're dealing with human beings who are going through verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. And no one really realizes that it makes the victim so much more vulnerable, and you become really ill. Mm-hmm. You really do. And you kind of just give up. Your spirit is like, you might as well say it's gone. Eventually it just leaves you. Your drive to live, it started to become a battle.
Because it doesn't happen all at once.
No,
he doesn't mistreat you on the first date.
Right, yeah, no.
Like it's a slow drip. So by the time you realize it's happening, it's happened for so long. It does have all those effects that last so long.
Yeah, and well, it's not a funny part, but the part of, the whole cycle of abuse and someone who's involved with an abuser, you become, I think, a little bit sicker than they do after a while, because, you start blaming yourself. You actually believe that, you did do something, or you just can't actually think at all after a while.
Or you have to anticipate what the reaction is going to be for every single thing that you do. So you're walking on eggshells all the time, second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yes, exactly. Always walking on eggshells. They basically take your whole life away,
So how did you get to the point of, I'm going to get out and I'm going to make a change?
It was basically the time where I remember his mother, I was actually getting Jaret ready for kindergarten. It was his first day of kindergarten. And I was bathing him in the tub, and his sister was there or whatever. And at the time, he was opening up the showroom that is in the movie that he talks about opening. And he had been out like the whole night and morning or whatever. And in a drunken stupor, he got up and he told me to get my ass to the store after I get him on the bus, because I have to open up the store. And that was probably the only time that I ever opened my mouth and said, I can't really say what I said. And then he kind of back underhanded me and then hit me in the nose, and I ended up in the hospital with cracked nose. And so, and then after that, I always hid everything from my parents, or I thought I did, and everyone else around me. And I went to his parents' house to recuperate and after the hospital. And I walked in, and his mom basically looked at me and said, "Oh, that's nothing." My husband used to beat me until I was unrecognizable. And I stood there in I just stopped dead in my tracks. I looked at her, and she was a big woman who was miserable and so depressed herself, and once upon a time a beautiful woman, and she was now 350 pounds, eating herself to death. And I flashed forward my life, and I said, "Oh no."
This is my future.
This is my future. And of course, unfortunately, it took that. Whereas sometimes, you beat yourself up because you think, I have these kids, why am I not why did it take something like that,
Well, it's funny the amount of shame.
Yeah. Oh, it's a tremendous. Yeah, it's a tremendous amount.
I really think the kind of the blessing of the Me Too of it all is the shifting of the blame to the perpetrators. I think collectively we're starting to look at it differently. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that?
Somewhat, but we have so far to go, because you have to get the bureaucracy to get on the board and start changing laws and making sure that, like that woman who just got murdered, why did it take so many times that she had gotten away and made phone calls or actually went to the police. I really don't know the story in its entirety, and I don't know everything about what led up to, and it doesn't matter what led up to that. It should not lead up to anything like that.
Right.
And there's just a fight. The NCADV does a lot of work with VAWA, and, they were...
You just said a lot of acronyms. What groups are you talking about?
The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and they were trying to not approve VAWA again.
Oh, the Violence Against
Women Act.
Yeah. What's the argument for not renewing that?
It's all, I think, funding for these organizations that, finally made a little headway and do have some programs, even though still limited. I truly believe, I don't think we can have, everyone talks about all these movements that are popping up, but I don't think we'll ever see
change
in their full potential until we address domestic violence, because that's the root of it. That's what's been around for thousands of years, and and violent. It doesn't have to be physical. It's the way we talk to our women, and just the approach.
It's not just women though, and it's just the way people treat each other, and it's just the whole disintegration of the family. The vicious cycles of, being in an alcoholic situation or someone who's taking drugs, or just simply that, verbal abuse, could be any kind of abuse.
Well, it comes down to child abuse.
Yeah.
Abuse people.
Right. It's just something that it's so deep-rooted, and it's so multi-level and multifaceted as far as, the problems that are, underlying all of it,
and secret. And secret.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work to be done. And unfortunately, the family unit itself in this, day and age is just disintegrating. So, but something has to happen as far as conversations, the way we bring up our boys and our girls, and just, I remember, no one really. Well, I grew up in a day and age where children were to be seen and not heard, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And of course, now I have a granddaughter, and those are the last words I would ever say to her.
Of course.
And...
I don't think she'd let you say anything.
No, she wouldn't, actually. She's very strong-minded. Thank God.
It's a different world, 2020. Yeah. That's the thing I wanted to say, too. I don't believe... I don't have much hope or belief in our government and the policies and everything else, but... In the universe, I do. In the year of 2020, year of clear vision, and I think we are seeing a shift that way, where that 1950s mentality of putting on a show and people getting away with certain things, even though it's hard. But we're seeing the chaos of before. I think we'll see the change. So
with the transparency, it comes with a little bit of honesty about it all first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What got you to the point of, I think I want to make this movie?
Well, after the short, I kind of started the healing journey for myself, and certainly, like, as a family, we went through different things after seeing it on the screen. So I could have been done at that point, but we every event and just putting it out there. What motivated me was knowing that women or men, left their situations. And that was huge for me, like knowing that our voice created this ripple effect, and that just sharing the vulnerability of the level of vulnerability for this story, even if they didn't go through domestic violence, we just had so many people coming up and wanting to share their story and shake my mom's hand, give her a hug, cry on her shoulder. And it was just so beautiful. I was like, if this little short can have this type of power, I feel like I have to make the feature, because that's the product and that's what we can really create bigger change with. So I think it was that, and just kind of propelled and grew from there.
Has your father seen the movie?
No.
Does he know about it?
He does, yeah.
How'd that go over?
He saw the trailer for the short initially, like years ago, and I didn't know he was on my mailing list. And he said that was beautiful. What are the next steps? And I don't think he fully digested everything at that point. But I think he's older than my mom, and I think he is starting to look at life a little differently in terms of how much time he has left on this earth, and, that he's abused his body and he's made a lot of mistakes. And I'm sure he's conflicted about it, but I think what he admires deep down is that I ended the cycles and I ended the patterns and all the things that he couldn't do or didn't do or ran from.
Do you have a relationship with him?
It became, no, we don't have a relationship like father and son. What he always turned back to, and what's part of the film, is he was conditioned that he was only worth something with materialism in his business, and that's kind of what he, put his time and energy into for the most part. And when I didn't take over his business and go back there to help him, our relationship fizzled out in terms of how much he was calling me when he realized that I wasn't going to be his retirement plan.
In fact, I'm going to go make a movie about you. Yeah. That's how this is going to go.
Yeah, and that way, I'm his son, because I think, like I was saying last night at the event during the Q&A, you have to have a lot of strength and a lot of, so many qualities to even move forward to make a feature film, because I don't think there's anything like it, So in that way, I obviously have like a ton of those qualities from my mom, but there's the crazy parts of just moving forward and what goes into it that I think, I took the best qualities from both parents and just made it all work.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the making of the film, because I know you went through thinking someone else was going to direct it and you were going to produce it and all the different ways that could happen, and you ended up directing it yourself. How did you get to that decision?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about, I've been an actor since I'm a kid, and then I started producing to create my own work and to put my time behind, to kind of channel also everything that I do have been through and as an empath. So just creating awareness for subjects deserving attention. So I said all that because I really wanted a woman to direct this women's empowerment film. That was my original intention. As with all my work, women's empowerment, diversity and inclusion, LGBTQIA community, incorporating as much of that as possible. But what I've realized is that people have a hard time naturally to not put their stamp on it and incorporate their story, because that's the only story they have to work off of pretty much. So I just never wanted I never wanted my mom's story to become someone else's story. It was important for me for this to be her voice. I just got tired. I was in so many meetings and had various offers, and who wanted to give Donna a gun and who wanted to do something else that was the more Hollywood traditional commercial way. And I don't think that works. I think that model's old. It's broken. That's not why people go to the theater. And that's certainly not how I wanted my mom portrayed on the big screen. So,
forget it.
So I just directed it.
Yeah. Who knows this material better?
Yeah, I think that's really what it came down to. There was a lot of beautiful ideas and a lot of support in various ways, and through so many different meetings and people along the way. But yeah, I think it also, besides it just being my mother's story, I realized that it was very much my own story, and me wanting to find my own voice and how all this, I healed so much, not through the process so much of the making, but realizing it and then having breathing room and space from doing EMDR therapy, because there was so much PTSD. And what I realized was the movie, like the process of making the movie, was me reliving not only the story, but the story in the way that it put me on the cycles and the patterns and kept that anxiety and that trauma of like what's going to happen next. So it served that for a little bit until I finally, realized it, and we started doing pre-screenings, and it really just put the past in the past and helped me separate from it finally.
That sounds like this was really therapeutic for everybody.
Yeah.
Did it change your perspective on how, I'm talking to Donna now, did it change your perspective on how you're kind of looking back at your life, and does it put it in a different light?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, Jaret has taught me the importance of opening up, because I mean, of course, I left, and I left quietly, which is not something that most people do. They, generally, in a domestic violence situation, you have violence on both ends, and things can get really crazy. But I usually, and I should say I always kept quiet, and I would just do my journals, and I would let all my feelings out that way. But I changed a lot, because I probably wouldn't have let's put it this way. I have people who I work with, and I'm, at my job 20 years this year. And they recently just saw the screening in Long Island, and they all looked at me like, "Are you kidding? We don't know this about you." Yeah. How do you go through your everyday life and we don't know this? It's not something, and it's not because I hid it from anyone. I just didn't feel the necessity to, even discuss it. And not want to, say, "Oh, look at what I did," Yeah. But it changed me in a way that now, because I went from that quiet little person in that black hole, thinking that I'm never going to make it for the rest of my life, this is going to be it, to where he made me understand that the importance of really sharing the story, not staying in that black hole, which perpetuates the negativity, and to, open up and just... the only way to get through the past is to let the past go, face the past, and then move forward for the better and make the change through actually just changing the way now I can talk about it, and I see the importance of talking about it. And looking back and knowing that I was that person that felt like literally I was in a black hole, like I was going to die. And knowing that other people are struggling with that breaks my heart. And actually what really even impacted me and changed me through this process as well was the fact that we had the short in a little venue at the Sundance Film Festival. And a young man who was someone who was, involved in the venue where we had it, had come up to me at the end of the proof of concept and just came up to me with tears streaming down his face. And I remember him coming over to me and just hugging me so tight. And then we just took hands, both our hands were holding on to one another. And he just said to me, "Thank you so much." And to hear someone say thank you so much, and then he proceeded to tell me that his grandfather murdered his grandmother, I wanted to fall to my knees and just cry for him, because I can't imagine that happening, I mean, I can, but, to know that this is happening on a daily basis and that movie just affected him that way. And there were other people, around, of course, that came up, a lot of women, but to see him that really broke my heart. And I realized then, this is really something that has to be done.
Because there's something so vulnerable and brave about you even letting this story out and then showing up to the screenings. I mean, you're just wide open there. And for you to be able to see, the meaning and importance of doing that, I think is really incredible, because that can't have been easy.
No, it isn't. And because, like I said, when you're in that situation, you don't even think you're going to make it through that day. Never mind, fast forward, here I am.
Who's going to play me in the movie?
Right, yeah, I know,
You're not
right?
thinking that in the moment.
That's just something that if you told me in my wildest dreams that was going to happen, I'd say, sure, what did you just have? That makes you think that. No, it's just unimaginable that it all happened this way, but
here we are.
Yeah, it's amazing, it really is.
I just want to say it was we were at the Indie Lounge at Sundance Film.
I couldn't think of the name of the...
Yeah, it was the Indie Lounge at Sundance in 2017. Yeah, I think we really realized through the film that we're survivors, not victims.
Right, and
really
yeah, exactly. And to survive, you have to have a lot of strength, and I never thought of myself that way, and people, after seeing that, the short and everything like that, they would say that to me, and I'd be like, what are you saying? You don't really know me, or, I was a little weakling. I always thought in the back of my head, like, because I stayed and I put up with this and, but in fact, it's the opposite.
Can we talk about that scene in the film that you got the title from? Can you talk about that moment in your life and what that woman said to you?
What happened, actually, I actually have it in my journal with me. I wrote on the plane the other day. There's a quote that this is many years later. This is only at 7, 8 years ago when Jaret had the idea about the film. And I was just going to, lie down and watch a little TV, and all of a sudden, after a long day of teaching or whatever, and I'm lying there and I'm watching a show mindlessly because I don't, by a certain time of night, I'm not really focusing. So I'm lying there and I'm watching a crime show, and this actor turns around and says to the other character, it was like he was speaking to me. Just like this strange feeling came over me. So the quote is, "Nothing is so strong as gentleness, and nothing is as gentle as real strength."
Yes.
So when the actor said that, it was at the time when this all, just started to be, like I said, an idea that, and then all of a sudden it was so powerful to me, I felt like it was meant for me. He was speaking to me, and or maybe that it was just for me to hear, and I just connected to those two sentences so deeply. And Jaret actually had a good friend, Alyssa, who how did we come about with the title? Because she was really one of the ones that mentioned Stronger Than Pretty, right?
Yeah, she, Alyssa Jason, who is a producer on this, came up with the title, Stronger Than Pretty.
Yeah.
And then we just incorporated it into that scene.
Because in the scene, it's what is a woman's job? Who says that to you?
The woman that was in the line that said, women have to be stronger than pretty, you look like a warrior to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that was said to me, but not on a line like that in that, particular instance,
Yeah.
But
what an incredible phrase to say, women have to be stronger than pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. And, what an incredible, even turn of phrase.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so Pat Branch has joined us.
Hello.
You wrote the screenplay.
With Jaret. Yes.
And so you've been on this journey the whole time also. And
Yes.
Pat just came in bearing all the prizes from the film festival. She's literally was picking them up as we started this interview, which I think we mentioned was Best Director, Best Actor, Best Picture.
Best Actress, yes.
Best Actress.
Well, they said
Congratulations,
actress.
you
Yes,
guys.
thank
It's
you.
incredible.
It was very, very nice to be there to represent the film and accept the awards for them.
So this is the first festival. How did that feel?
Very nice. It was best because it was right around the corner from my house practically. So I like that part the most. It was convenient. So I went on opening night to their party. And then I went, obviously last night to the screening and the after party. And then back tonight for the award ceremony. So that was really nice. And one gentleman did stop me in the lobby afterwards to ask me about the film and tell me about somebody else he knew who was addressing domestic violence via spoken word and art. And another guy wanted to know, where can I see your movie? And I was like, give us a minute, but follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook and keep up with us. And we'll let you know. So it was very exciting, and it was my first acceptance speech.
This is a great start to the festival season, you guys.
Yes, no kidding.
That's so great. Do you want to talk a little bit about how this journey has been for you?
I'm just humbled. That's the main thing I told a friend this morning, is that I'm humbled. One, that I was allowed to tell your story, and two, that Jaret, even after I gave him the first draft of the script and he invited me to remain on the project, because it's very rare for a writer to be included once.
You're expecting to turn in your pages and walk away?
Mm-hmm. And then he said he wanted me there all the way, and I had no idea that meant all the way to our first awards at a film festival. So I was like, woohoo, that's kind of nice. And it's just been, and we're all survivors of trauma. And so I was allowed to put some of myself into the script as well, and just grow as a human being. That's the best part, I think, that's been, and to, have a whole new family that I'm a part of too, because I'm an honorary Martino. That's part great. And
everyone wants to be Italian, right?
yes, of course. I mean, Italy's just right across from Africa, so makes perfect sense for me. So it's just been and just to get such nice friendships out of it all. That's been also with the actors, with the crew. The shoot was amazing. Just how family it felt, and hanging out with the crew every day after shooting, getting a little bit of trouble. But it was all, we were loud, rowdy, and noisy. But just that's the best part, is how many friendships I developed. And then to actually be a screenwriter who's written a script that got made.
First of all,
yes,
huge.
That part is huge, and it's so unexpected, but it happened, and I'm just humbled by the universe granting me the privilege to be here right now.
And now you two are working on another project already.
Yes.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Of course. Jaret invited me to direct his pilot episode of Worlds Apart, which addresses the people of color in the transgender community and what kind of obstacles that are faced by that. Employment, obviously transphobia, homophobia.
Just surviving. Isn't that the highest rate of being killed for being who you are?
Yes, particularly black trans women there's last year there was just a rash of it, and I think going into this year it's still continuing. I don't know what's so intimidating for men about women I don't want to say it wrong, but anybody that wants to inhibit somebody's life and how do we get to tell someone else how they should live? I'm only in charge of me. And my whole thing is if your opinion isn't putting food on my table, then why am I listening to it? If it's not paying my rent, if it's not putting clothes on my back, if it's not your parents, because they're paying for stuff. They get to tell you what to do. But once you're in charge of your own life, nobody should be able to tell you what you can do and how you can live and how you can be. I don't understand that.
This evening before we started this, I was watching Tracy Ellis Ross on Oprah's WW tour, whatever it's called.
Which has been amazing.
Amazing. And Tracy Ellis Ross did that speech a couple of years ago where she just stood up and said, you know what, my life is mine. And that was such a revolutionary thing to say. And by the same token, your life is yours.
Yes.
Like, what? If we could all just embrace that simple thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we hope to do with the project is figure out how worlds apart can become worlds together. Would that be inaccurate? Mm-hmm. Okay. And how are we doing
that?
Well, through part of it, as Jaret explained it to me, was redefining, well, not us redefining, but examining how notions of masculinity and femininity are redefined. Because when you have someone, especially I think with the black trans male or man, when you have somebody that's lived part of their life as a female and then they transition. Thank you. They transition to being a male. They bring with them a body of knowledge about how women are treated. Mm-hmm. And I think that really informs how they choose to be male and what kind of man they want to be. And maybe get men that are born, so we have cis males, so have them re-examine.
Careful, it's a minefield.
I know, that's why I'm like tiptoeing, because I don't want to say anything wrong and then, blow up my Facebook like, girl, you know what you said? And I was like, yes, but I didn't mean the way it sounded. I'm so sorry. I'm looking for the right words and I said them all wrong.
We're all learning. So
yes, and that's it though, the willingness to learn. Yeah. The willingness to learn is really important, and I think that's what we're going to be doing.
I think there needed to be a show that addressed the confusion.
Yes, exactly.
And Pose is doing a great job at highlighting it, but I don't think it's not hitting upon quite what we need right now. It's great that I think it should exist. I'm not putting that out there, but I'm just saying that
I'm like, that's my Pen Stevens show.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful show, and they've done a great job, and it so important about the '80s, but.
I think, but moving forward,
but we need something current.
Yes, exactly. Because how do cis heterosexual people deal with the trans language, but how do LGBT cis people deal with the language? Because there's a lot of transphobia right in the community. There's a lot of, just like there's racism, and that's also part of it.
And just to show that, the other part on the crew end is that each episode, it's structured that each episode is a minority director and that all the cast is a part of the LGBTQIA community. So there's nothing else like that.
And why are you taking this on?
Through the strength I gained through making the feature and everything else that I've done. I mean, I've watched so many people go on camera at this point and share their own pain. And I just think it's time that really the root of it, I was shocked to learn that the amount of shame in the LGBTQIA community causes certain diseases and it's more prevalent.
Say more about that.
Studies have shown, and I've been to, groups that have explained how the community is affected and just how shame within not being able to be themselves pretty much has manifested into diseases that the community dies from.
Okay, so just to wrap it up with that project you're doing, it's a digital series?
We're pitching it to Ava DuVernay at Array, who Pat and Fitz have their documentary Jewel Sketch 1 distributed through. So
currently on Netflix.
Array just aligns with the message of what we're trying to do and is just the right company to do this on the grander scale. I don't know if I want to continue to do the entire first season. I also just don't feel right about that. I think that it should be, I'm happy to pass this along and just have it realized right.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay, so what are the next steps for Donna, the movie?
Yeah, well, we're hoping to go to Bentonville at the end of April. Everyone from the fest has followed us, so if they don't accept us, I'm going to have a lot of questions.
I know you're really excited about that one. Why that one in particular?
Yeah, it's Gina Davis and a powerful team of women, and they're all about women's empowerment messages.
That's it. That's going to be the spot.
It feels in alignment, and there's been some great films that have come from that festival, and it really helped their journey.
Do you have distribution yet? Or are you just at the beginning of this journey?
No, I mean, we've had interest through the short, and CAA has the link, different sales agents, and but I want to wait to make any decisions till after Bentonville.
Okay.
But looking at a summer release theatrically, either way, at least like a 7-day August release to qualify the film.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, Donna, what is next for you in your life now that you've had a little taste of this Hollywood business?
I am about to retire.
Yahoo!
And in November, and travel with Jaret and just go to all of these festivals and just be a part of this journey.
I think we're going to always, whatever happens with distribution, it's important for the film and for the ripple effect to do more of a global impact, to be at universities and libraries and anywhere that this film is needed and wanted.
And it's always interesting to see how people react to you after seeing the film, to have the person that the film is based on there to talk to. That's always, I think that'll be really just more powerful overall, and because it's very rare that you get to speak to the person that the film is about or tell your story. That's the most important part, is for me, that I've noticed, is when people want to tell their story.
I wonder how much of that you're getting. Like, are people just coming up to you and spilling their guts?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier with screening at Sundance. I think that probably impacted me the most because, like I said, there was a young man, and then, of course, women, like everybody came up to us, but particularly me, because they just wanted to know, like, how did you do it? And I just, and they couldn't wait to tell me, that they were in this situation, or maybe they perhaps just got out of the situation. And to know that I could actually, have these conversations with these people and have some sort of ability to, first of all, comfort them. Secondly, to engage in a conversation to help them, move forward and just be there, to, I guess, be an example of surviving and, that there is hope.
Yeah, the short created such a, ripple effect of people just wanting to share, like I said earlier, and we'd receive emails and, anytime we were at screenings of people just sharing so much with us that it became so overwhelming. At one point, that's when I created Inner Warrior, which is the docu-series of survival stories, because this story just hit people and they wanted to,
I think
share their story.
The important thing too is when you're in a domestic violence situation, you always feel that it's only happening to you. If this cannot be possible, that it's happening to anyone else but me. So that's why I mentioned earlier that you feel like you're in this deep, dark, isolated hole that you're never getting out of, and certainly not alive. So to have that be known that, yes, I made it out alive, I think is just incredible and just so powerful. That's why, you have people coming up to me in tears, and I think, once we just have these conversations and the connections and can only get better.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, I'm not just seeing... You all keep talking about surviving, but I've met your son. Like, you've done an incredible job, like, with your life and with your parenting and have thrived so much. I mean, it's incredible. And I think just that is such a testament. And to share that with the world, I think is, I mean, it's something.
And to raise such gentle people in that kind of environment, I think that, because I've met the whole family, and, that's the first thing after I saw one of Jaret's documentaries, Driven, the documentary, and as soon as it was over, I just said, I need to meet your mother. I need to know what woman raised you. I've told that story 100 times, but that was my initial feeling, was how does somebody, an actor in Hollywood that's handsome, also be kind. That was the kindness of him was stunning to me, because you're just so used to meeting people that are all about themselves, and how, you're at a party, and when I first got my Writers Guild card, the first question a fellow writer said, "Oh, can you get me a job?" And I'm like, "What kind of job? I have a card in a union. What? If I can get a job, I'll get it for myself first. First of all, let's be clear." But no, that was, and then she barely talked to me after that.
What can you do for me?
Yes, exactly, and that was the whole thing. And here I meet somebody that's saying, "What can I do for the world? How can I help make the world a better place?" And so.
Yeah,
Can we talk about you some more, Jaret? How's that going over there?
I remember there was a man at when we had the little gathering at
the place at the time with the thing.
Yeah, that one.
Sundance?
No.
Oh.
No, at the house in Beverly Hills.
Oh,
I was at that one.
You were?
The place.
Yeah, we just reshared that video not too long ago.
At, what's
Sandy Bainham.
Sandy's
Oh,
house.
Sandy's. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
There was a man there, and he turned around and he said to me, "How much heart does this guy have?" Like, one thing after the other, like he knew about all the other things that he had made, and he's incredible. He just has so much heart. Like, does it ever end?
Now, just in fairness and balance, would you like to brag about your other children while you have them?
And I was like, we cannot let Angela or Brianne hear this interview.
No, well,
I assume they're great too.
I did mention them earlier, and I did say that I have, wonderful relationships with all three of them, and they're all wonderful in their own right, in their own way, and they have all, grown to become accomplished, kind, gentle human beings, and I couldn't be prouder, really.
Good job, Mama.
Thank you.
All right, where can people find the film and find you?
Yeah, DonnaTheMovie.com. StrongerThanPretty.com is still up, and it navigates you to the new Donna Stronger Than Pretty site. And then we're on all the socials, Facebook, Donna Stronger Than Pretty, Instagram and Twitter, we're Donna STP Film.
What did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
I just wanted to mention that, this film is about using your voice, trusting your heart, and honoring your spirit. And I'm just so grateful for all the people that have supported along the journey, because there's been thousands at this point. And the conversations we've had the privilege to have, and the people that we have been brought into our orbit. Ruth Davis from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, as we sat with her, moments before the conference started, their annual conference. And, to take something like this on has so many overwhelming things, like we've talked about, and to hear a woman that turned around and let us talk and, go through every detail and spill our hearts. And then at the very end, she shared that she was shot in her head 3 times and in her shoulder once. And I don't want to get that wrong, so I don't know exactly, that's what I'm remembering. But it was just a moment that I'll never forget because it, really put things in perspective in a way that I think it was one of the first times we started seeing that we're not, even though you're not a victim and we already were talking as survivors, to have people then share theirs, because you shared your story and then they shared theirs, that was definitely a clear moment of healing. And there's been so many moments like that, but that was definitely, to have the CEO of a company like that.
And to see a hotel conference rooms filled with people who...
Thousands of advocates.
Yeah, and people who survived, and it's just beyond words. It's heart-wrenching, actually.
I took a lot from that conference and then went back, and that's when we shot 15 days in New York, but then after that conference, we came back and there were some scenes that we added because we went to a part of the conference, we went to all the different workshops and everything that they had going on, and we had a chance to speak to everybody and show the trailer, and I had pages and pages of notes of keywords and different situations, and I realized we were missing some things that were really important, that if we were going to tell every woman and man story that was ever in a domestic violence situation, that we had to go back and make sure to get those things in there.
I just I could thank my friends when we ran out of money after we were done shooting, and I sent an email and they helped us move the chains for post-production. I won't name them all by name. They know who they are, but that was really a pretty amazing thing to have your friends come through for you, even though everybody contributed and everything. But I just wanted to make sure that and also my friend Susie, who every time I watch the movie, the car that Donna escapes in, I just think how that car is a hero in a way, because loaded it up, put the kids in, and boom, got out of there. So that was, I don't know if that matters or not, but it was just really...
The real ironic part is that my stepmom at the time had a car that looked exactly like that.
Oh, that's why we picked that one.
Yeah. It was amazing.
When Jaret told me what kind of car you had, and I was in New York visiting, and we were riding in her name's Carlotta. She's a lot of car. Anyway, that was her nickname during the shoot. And we were in there, and I was like, wow, this looks like the car that Jaret talked about. And so I said, can we borrow this for whenever we get... we were still raising money and everything, but they donated the car to us to use as the getaway car, and the car that she had for her and the kids once she left the character of Nick in the film. And that was, we picked it because... that was the car. It looked just like yours. Looked like, it wasn't a country squire, but it looked like the old station wagon with the side wood paneling and all that. And I just see that, and just, when you think of you as escaping, when you're driving down that road in the car, in that scene, it's just so, I'm so happy when you're like, they're getting away, even though there's still more to go, but at least it was that first step of
one.
leaving away, getting away from him, getting away and getting...
Yeah, there's been so many, so much support that...
Oh, definitely.
It's really incredible. And every word, every encouraging word, every conversation that we have had, it's been so healing. It's been all a part of the healing journey. And the two biggest words that I want to leave anyone who's in a situation like this, and after this whole process and a lot of therapy this past year, is that we're safe. And if anyone is in this situation right now, if you're listening to this, that by making a choice, everything in life is a choice, and by making a different choice, you can get yourself safe.
Yes.
Not to keep it to yourself.
Yes.
Because I thought that was the only way I can protect myself, which at that time basically was. But if I didn't have, now we have the outlets, we have the resources and the organizations and things like that. So it's really important that people reach out to those.
We have to get the government to keep them funded.
Yes.
Is that?
And we have to have laws changed in respect to when things like this happen. It shouldn't happen more than once. It shouldn't happen at all. But if it does,
like that,
it should be done immediately.
Well, that woman that was just murdered in Hollywood, that it was all because the protective order expired, and somebody said that should be lifetime.
Yeah.
That should be lifetime. That's not proof. I don't know what is. That.
Well, I had mentioned that
earlier.
Even if it would have helped. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, and they don't help. I mean, because you can die with it in your hand, as soon as he crashes the door down, and
Even when we talk about it, there was a headline the other day, like man kills his wife and three children, two children.
Yeah.
Loving man who showered his family with love.
Yeah.
Up until he killed them.
Yes.
Like, what's wrong with that headline?
And obviously, that wasn't that. When that happened, there was no loving going on. It's not like you love somebody and all of a sudden you snap. That's a slow build up to that state of mind where you think you can do that to another human being and your children.
I think that's a really important piece of why I needed to direct. Not only that was my mother's story, but that I'm a man directing this story, because when you look at it, our whole system is protecting men at the top. Clearly, we've seen that a lot, over the past 3 and 4 years.
1,000 years.
And
And
during my time and prior to that, men had the power, men had the money, men had the jobs. So, which is why women stayed where they were for the most part, right?
Which is why I said at the conference that this is great and it's supportive and we're making change, but where are all the men? It still is going to require...
It's a problem that men have to fix.
It's going to require men's voices to to be called out, finally. I'm tired of seeing that, and I've seen it since I'm a kid, and I think that, that's another huge reason for this film. There's so many reasons, but that's definitely a huge reason.
It's like white people have to fix racism.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, but at the same time, just like slavery didn't end just with black people, we had to have some white abolitionists because there are places you have to go. Yeah. It's the same thing where if you expect violence against women by men to stop, it's up to men to help stop it. Yes. Just not say, well, it's not me, I'm not beating them up. I'm like, well, okay, but what about your friend over there? Did you stop him from hitting his girlfriend?
Right, well, it's in the language also. It's the woman is a victim of abuse. The woman was hit. The woman was, rather than...
The man hit the woman.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, it's enraging. Okay. Thank you, all of you, for coming to this. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this journey with you. I feel like I've been there since the beginning. This is really fun.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that too, that you've been such a huge support and I appreciate it.
Well, I just love what you've been doing, and it's been really fun. And to be here on the day where you won all the awards in your first festival is so exciting.
Yeah.
All right, onward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, A Herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Jaret Martino, Donna Martino, and Pat Branch for sharing their stories. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Alice McQuaid for the music. Please find us on your favorite podcast provider and leave a review. And of course on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. You can also follow us on all the social media platforms. Thanks for listening. Go watch Donna, Stronger Than Pretty. And Donna, thank you for this honor of talking to me. Okay, see you next time.